You know, me being the fashion lecturer, I approached her about coming here to do a talk. She's obviously very busy, so it's been, so I'm very, very pleased to have her come and visit us here back in Cardiff another time. And so Ella's really talking about her professional experience, kind of your way into fashion, and how you've tried to bring your values, sustainability into your practice and the businesses you have been working for. So yeah, thank you so much, Ella.
Thank you for the introduction. Hello everyone, I'm very pleased to be here. Let me see if that works. Fantastic. So as Taron already said, I'm Ela Kuester. I'm a fashion designer, stylist and artist based in London. At the moment, since January, I'm working as a head designer for Urban Revival. Previously, I was working as a head of design for Vivienne Westwood, and I was also the sustainability champion for the ready-to-wear line there. Today, I'd like to share with you some insights of my, I call it journey, insights in how I tried to make sustainable collections, but also in working towards a healthier industry for people and the planet. And I think this is more important now than ever. I'm starting with my personal journey and values. My journey into ethical fashion didn't just happen at once. I think it was a gradual process, and I think my upbringing somehow set the first steps. I grew up, as you see in this picture, in lovely south of Germany, really countryside, and nature was all around me. And so as a child, I played on the field, and nature just became such an important thing for me. And I loved it. So it's always taking care of nature, animals around you. That had always a high value for me. Also, what I think now in hindsight, I can see is that growing up actually with my parents and also with my grandmother had a huge influence. My parents, they were war children, and my grandmother, she raised 2 daughters in that difficult time. So they both were very resourceful with things, food, clothes, everything. To be fair, it wasn't really the ethical aspect they had at that time. It was, they didn't have the money. Having said that, I still remember spending summer holidays at my grandmother's, and no matter how little the leftover food, for example, was, it was always saved and like kept for the next day or the evening or something. Same with clothing. We loved her huge wardrobe, but in there were like clothes from like decades, and they were mended and fixed, and this was the way how you did it. You bought a coat and you had it for 10 years. And somehow, even though me living now, these were values, they were embedded into me quite early, and they became very important later on in what I'm doing now. But to be fair, when I first started fashion, studied fashion, it was all about, I guess, the fascination we all have. It was about creating nice shapes, choosing wonderful fabrics, and just to make cool garments. There was never the question, is it actually sustainable? Where does the fabric come from? Who makes them? Etc. To be fair, that's more than 20 years ago, and sustainability at that point wasn't as it is now. People weren't really aware of it. But as I just said, and it really, I remember my story is really with H&M. That's how old I am. There was the first store opened in South Germany, and we all loved it. Obviously cheap clothes, but trendy clothes, and we bought it. But after a few years, I was wondering, how is it possible that these clothes are actually that cheap and others aren't? And where are they made? And what is the material? And I obviously also could see an H&M t-shirt didn't last as long as a quality t-shirt. So all these questions started to raise. And then after studying, I entered the fashion industry. And obviously there you are confronted with amazing creativity, but also with flaws. As mentioned before, I worked with Vivienne at Vivienne Westwood 13 years, and I had the honor to work with her directly for, I think it's more than 8 years. So she was really my mentor, and she really, as I think you all know, was really aware of sustainability before it was even trendy, I would say. And she preached about it, and she implemented it, and she was fighting for it. And I have to say, I loved it. I loved it, how she did it. And also that is another value that is really got embedded into me. One of her credos, and I put it up here because I really love it, it's also on a lot of t-shirts and bags and God knows and all the things she did, is buy less, choose well, make it last. What's good for the planet is good for the economy. I totally love this quote. I think it's so right, and I think it's a value you can think about, maybe also embed into your beliefs, and for your future designs, maybe think about that. As I mentioned earlier, since January, I'm working at Urban Revival. This is actually a fast fashion brand, and maybe you wonder, why is she doing that? I was wondering that first as well, but this brand actually gives me the opportunity to implement sustainable values into it. It's hard work, but the quantities, for example, with fabrics you buy at a fast fashion brand are much bigger than you do in high fashion. So the impact, let's say, the impact I have there actually is much bigger. It's really, yeah, but it's hard, but I like it. Embedding ethics into design practice. So when I prepared for this talk, I was really a bit thinking, what are actually the steps I went through, or people went through, I guess. So for me, the first thing is really with you. You start within yourself. It's about you ask different questions. So instead of asking what's trending, for example, you ask what's lasting. Or instead of asking, can I make this beautiful, you can also ask, is this responsible? In order to answer, though, or to, let's say, answer design in that way, you have to build a foundation of knowledge. What I mean with that is you have to educate yourself about global sustainability challenges. This is climate change, biodiversity loss, wealth inequality, the impact of lifestyles, and employment conditions. So you really need to know, and it's, at first it feels a bit, at least to me, it was quite overwhelming, but once, and nowadays because of internet, it's so, in a way, kind of easy. Once you get into it, you accumulate that knowledge quickly. And with this foundation, you can begin embed these values into your design practice. That means from choosing sustainable fabrics, that means you actually don't choose certain fabrics, you avoid producing garments with a lot of quantity of fabrics, etc., etc. Another thing is, it's a belief that creativity with commercial and sustainability realities is hard. There is a certain aspect which is hard. I understand, let's say, there are some fabrics that are just unbelievable beautiful, but it's plastic, virgin plastic, and etc., and you should not really use that. But on the other hand, I think having limitations actually fuels creativity. I give you an example, for example, with Vivienne. So she really didn't like that when you produce garments, you produce so much waste. So she started to develop patterns, or pattern construction without any waste. So she used the whole width of the fabric. So the garments, they were made just out of rectangles. And of course, it's a limitation, but they were absolutely stunning, best-selling garments created. Or another point is to recycle, I'm sure you know, to recycle mixed fabrics, it's much more complicated than actually 100% cotton fabrics or 100% wool fabrics. So she tried to use just mono fabrics. There is a huge limitation in it. At the same time, you can use beautiful 100% wool fabrics. I mean, it's absolutely stunning. So these are, I think, having these limitations, as I just said, in my opinion, they also fuel the creativity. Yeah. Barriers and challenges. The first thing, it was very easy. That came to my mind, price. So when you will leave university and you have still the possibility to design without thinking about prices, I guess this is what you do, fantastic. And you just really think about the creation, etc., wonderful. But the reality out there is, so it's important that the design looks nice, but almost as important is the price. Unfortunately, ethical materials are often more expensive. And this is the first challenge you somehow have to go through. What we did is, for example, as a solution is, let's say we had cotton which wasn't sustainable or didn't have any certifications, and we made a cotton t-shirt which did. So the cotton t-shirt which did, we had like either a special label or we put like a nice print on it. So it was, in a way, people were drawn to it. But as I said, so there was a reason why it is actually more expensive. But this is basically a big challenge you have to discuss and go through with your company. Yeah, and it's not easy. Lead times of fabrics, meaning when they are produced, because of often at the moment getting certifications, getting the fibers, the right fibers, the lead time of the fabrics take longer. And it's not just for fast fashion, also in high fashion, there's always time pressure. So if there is a long lead time, often you can't even make it for production. So also there you have to, in a way, decide quite early to buy that fabric, commit to the fabric, which is challenging. Quality. It goes a bit in hand with the lead time, was what I just said. Often these fibers aren't available at that time. So you have to wait, which is, yeah, it's difficult. On top of it, because they have to source it in a special way, there is a high minimum. So let's say you would just need 500 meters, 1,000 meters of that fabric, but they put a minimum of 5,000. So you have to discuss with your company, actually this fabric I'm going to use also next season and the season after. And you actually have to do it, otherwise, no problems. Another one, and that is still I think this is still reality. Sustainability and the awareness of it, people are more aware of it. But still, if I look at sales sales figures, what you do as a designer all the time. The cheaper, the better, unfortunately. Very, very often there are exceptions, but a good price still wins. Also, the priority of companies, I have to say also at Vivienne Westwood, it's about profit. Of course, then there are stakeholders. There's Vivienne, she didn't really care for that, but then there are stakeholders, and they did. So they want to make money, and it's easier, in a way, to make money. Yeah, it's easier when you are not sustainable, I have to say. But, yeah, I think these are challenges I'm happy to deal with. Technology, and change. I have to say, even though now working in fast fashion, I haven't been confronted that much with, let's say, technology, AI. So what I'm confronted with is, I listed it here, and I think it's actually, yeah, the first one is 3D simulations, in the sense there are designs actually sold on websites made with AI, and they have never been actually sewn, never been tried on. That disappeared though, because at the end these AI garments so far, they didn't really work in reality. So people ordered it, and then the company started to sew these garments, and they didn't actually look, or it doesn't work. So somehow at the moment this is on hold. What I'm doing though is the second one, which I really do enjoy, is 3D fittings. So you hand in a design, and with Clothes 3D or other 3D programs, the garments are actually sewn together, and you can see it on the dummy, so the first round. And you can really eliminate quite a lot of mistakes. So the first sample, which usually is made, you can skip that. I think this is a fantastic tool, I have to say. It doesn't replace it, as I said, you need to see the garment at one point, but in order to skip some samples, fantastic. 3D printing machines are advancing, and I can say that especially in the accessory department. What I mean with accessories is buttons and like finishing pieces. This is actually implemented also in the company I work for. And this is actually quite nice because you can do crazy shapes and nobody is telling you, ooh, the mold is going to be difficult. Also, you can just produce exactly whatever you need. There isn't any minimum, any maximum. We have also created garments, knit garments, produced with a machine that, don't ask me exactly how it's done, but they really do the whole thing. There isn't any waste. It's sewn together, somehow knitted together, and they look great. So far, these are quite basic shapes, to be honest. But yeah, a wonderful, wonderful way to do that. Also, and I think this is very interesting, is there are new technologies developed how to recycle garments, which leads into the whole, what I love is the circular design. I'm sure you have heard of that. And there is more and more technology developed at the moment. And then there are also these biomaterials, leather grown from mushrooms or fabrics dyed with bacteria. And there are more and more dyeing techniques which use less and less water. So this is fantastic. Of course, these innovations, they could and they do in a way revolutionize sustainability, but of course other problems occur. And I think, as with everything, you can use this technology in the right way if you have embedded the right values. And the values embedding, we talked about it just before. The bigger picture, systemic change. I think as an individual, I just imagine me I would be a student, I would just graduate and you hear all of that. It's quite overwhelming, and as an individual to be sustainable, to design sustainable is difficult. Let's say, I mean, besides you start your own label, but even there you are not alone. You will work with other people, and I think this is the key. You can't and you shouldn't do it on your own. It's really a team. It is a teamwork. If it's just you doing your own label, you in a company, you somewhere, just one person cannot make it happen. I think it's important, especially when you work for a company, that it's really it's the whole picture, that everyone is involved. So it's brands, investors, educators, and even consumers. We all need to work together to make it happen. I can say as an example, me working at Vivienne Westwood, so we achieved 1 year 99% of lower impact fabrics for a collection, but that was only possible not just because of me, also that the fabric team was on board, marketing was on board, the stakeholders, they were on board, advertising, they were on board, Vivienne herself anyways was on board. It was really the whole, it was everyone. And I think this is the key in it. First, you have to start with yourself, embed the right values, but then with these values, educate other people and work together with other people. Advice for young designers. Well, I actually just started with it. So yes, I would say it is overwhelming, but start small. Make conscious decisions where you can. Build networks with others who share your values. Stay curious, stay critical. And also, and I think it's really important, give yourself permission not to be perfect. You cannot do everything at once. And no brand, nobody is doing everything. You can't do everything. If, an example, Stella McCartney, she doesn't use any materials from animals, but then she uses plastic. Yes, she doesn't, she tries not to use virgin plastic, but still there are, like critical points about using plastic. Still, you can't be perfect, no? And I think later, when you are more into have a job, have your own label, my advice is think and act like a problem solver. Embrace difficulties. There will be difficulties when you choose to not go the easy way, and designing in a more sustainable way is not easy. There will be problems, but in a way embrace them. And once you overcome them, it's such an achievement. I love it. Build strong relationships across the business. Once you start working in that way, you get to know other people, other brands, other suppliers who do it. And they again, then you get in contact with others, and suddenly you get like all the time updated. Oh, there's a new technique. Oh, I can do this. So it's really like the network starts to grow and makes it easier and easier. Educate others. I think this is another thing. When you work also in a company like I do now, I in a way try to educate them with my experience. And actually so far they like it. So they say, oh, I mean, again, it's a bit also about making money. Thank God sustainability is a bit trending, but yeah, educate others. Yeah. And also prioritize well. As I just said, don't try to do everything at once. Let's say you would start your own label. You prioritize and say, okay, think about where do I want to go. I actually just want to use BCI traceable cotton. And that's it. And that's it for the first season. So don't try to, all my fabrics need to be sustainable and etc., etc. Focus on things and then slowly grow and grow. Hopes for the future. As much as I talk about that it should come from you and you have to educate yourself and embed sustainable values, what I experience is that at the end, if there is like a rule, a regulation implemented, it makes it, of course, much easier. And there are more and more rules implemented. For example, now, BCI cotton, it is like a traceable cotton. In China, where the garments which I designed, they are produced in China, they all need to have BCI cotton, otherwise they can't be imported to Europe. And I think it's fantastic. A few years ago, that wasn't a rule. It was like, well, if it was self-regulated. Some companies thought this is important, some thought it's not. Now it's a rule, and I think there are more and more and more regulations coming up. And I think this is fantastic. I think at the same time, what gives me hope is when I myself started university, this kind of a talk would have never happened because it wasn't a topic. And now we are all, it's a thing, it's a different generation, and a lot of things are questioned. And I think it's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think this is fantastic. So this gives me hope. But of course, we all have to work together here and challenge each other. And I would say trust your ability to make better choices, challenge the status quo, understand the obstacles, and know that you can inspire others to learn and act too. This is all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Ella. That was really inspiring, and also it gives me a lot of hope that someone with your values is out there in the industry and trying, even if it's not easy.
It's not easy.
It's clearly not easy. But you are, trying to do something and to change things from within. So now I want to open up for questions to the audience. I have a microphone, so it might be a good idea for me to see if you can put your hand up and I'll give you a microphone. So you don't have to shout out so much to everyone. If you prefer to shout, then it's nice when everyone, is this on now? No, I don't think it is. Can we have this on? Is this on? I think it's on now. Is it on? I can't hear any difference. Yeah, is it? Okay. Now it is. Yes. So there was a question. Yes.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It's really informative. For me. I mean, I'm new to this, so I think it's really interesting and I learn new things. I wonder, because you work for high fashions and fast fashions, and you mentioned that the challenges to keep sustainability in this business are different.
Yeah.
Could you please explain a little bit more details, like what kind of difference they are? Like fast fashion, is it you have to focus more on changing people's mindsets? Or that's what I have been thinking, probably maybe that's one problem, but I'm not sure. If you could, thank you.
Of course. I knew that question would come. No, it's really a good question. And I'm still elaborating on it, to be fair. But, okay, what I've experienced so far is one thing what I mentioned in general in designing and working in a more sustainable way means, for example, consuming fabrics, more sustainable fabrics. It takes often more time. In high fashion, you don't have a lot of time, but still you you still have a bit time. In fast fashion, as the word already says, you have no time. So in order to, where I'm at the moment starting, trying to purchase more lower impact fabrics, is you have to commit to a huge quantity early. And in order to do that, of course, you have to commit, you have to somehow justify that. This is a battle, so this is one thing, which is very different. Fast fashion is very cheap, as we all know. And even though it's produced in China and their production is much cheaper, etc., it's just to get a good fabric, a good labor going, it costs. And to fight for that, obviously, then the product, the margins, what the company, the owners are earning will be less. And you can imagine also this is a huge battle. Whereas in high fashion, in a way, it's this very similar battle. It's just in fast fashion, it's just even more extreme because of the nature of the product. Is that? Okay, yeah.
Do we have another question?
It's not too bad, honestly. How did you get the opportunity with working with like Vivienne Westwood? How did you build yourself up to that point, and what skills did you have?
Yeah, good point. I started to study in London. I did a foundation course in London at St. Martin's, and then finished the main studies in Berlin, and she actually was my teacher. So she was teaching at that university. Now you would say this is how I got the job. This is not true, because we had our challenges. So she liked my designs, Vivienne, but she didn't like the way how I thought at that time. I was interested in art, which is modern art, and she thinks it's absolutely horrific. Or I like films from nowadays. She absolutely detests them. Sorry for me. And in our, like she was my teacher for 3 years, so she could tell, like, inspiration when we had to, at the beginning of the year, we always said, okay, the collection for this year, inspiration. And for example, I chose a film and from nowadays, and she was like, how could you? So we had our differences. So we departed. I got a good grade because she liked the designs, but I wasn't far away from one of her favorites. And then, so I was actually working then still in the fashion industry, but I did, I worked for a creative production company. They produced fashion shows, fashion shoots, everything around fashion, but not the design. And in this company, I learned so much about organizing, being on time, being exact, and it's really also important to know how do you produce a fashion show, how is a photo shoot done, which I never learned, like at university. And at one point, I missed, though, being creative. I tried to speed the thing up, and I did a lot of styling. And I applied 2 times at Vivienne Westwood, didn't get the job. And then a few months later, they approached me and said, actually, now there is a vacancy, and I think you would be good. And so this is how I got it. What I'm trying to say is I got a lot of different experiences. And I think this is it helped me so much. So it's not just design, what I learned. I also learned organizing. I know how to do fashion shows. I know how to do photo shoots. I know how to style a photo shoot. The more experience you have, the better.
And this is cheeky, but do you still have that portfolio for Central St. Martin's?
No.
You never kept it?
I left it in London, yes. I regret it, but yes, yeah.
Was it sustainability based, or was it?
No.
What did
it
you
was,
do?
It was a lot based on, sorry, I don't know how you even, my drawing skills were at that time the best they have ever been, and then they declined. It was live drawings. It was a lot about 3D drawings, but with your hand, no, and that you can tell you see the object. I did photographs. I remember the opening of my portfolio is I photographed my feet. That like in 6 different ways. It looked quite nice, but really, and the guy who helped me doing it was like also a tutor at a university. He said, the most important thing is because, and I've been later on at university, I also was the one who decided who could join the university, and I know how it works. You look at hundreds of portfolios, and if the first page is interesting, then you're like, hold on a minute, no. And this is why he said, do something weird, so at least they are curious. And they were, so here I am.
That's a great tip. Yeah, and I always say, don't just put your name on the front cover.
There is also, I think.
Thank you. That was enlightening for me. I know nothing about fashion design. I'm from the marketing side. I teach consumer behavior, and it's fascinating. Like I've seen a clear shift. Like students, mainstream consumption. Like you said, sustainability is actually fashionable and it's becoming mainstream.
Yeah.
So with brands like Vivienne Westwood, because of the high price, it's quite possible to not buy too much as a mainstream consumer because you can't afford. So it keeps very nicely with the ethos. But I see a challenge. I see it in myself all the time with mainstream, more high street fashions like Lucy and Yak, which are sustainable, but they're affordable. You know, you can buy it quite easily in your 40s or late mid-30s. But you end up buying too much. So as a designer and as a person from the inside of the business, do you have any thoughts or any tips on the potential challenge of mainstream consumers being so sustainable now that they buy too much sustainable stuff? And it's a real question. I'm trying to find solutions myself, so I'm very interested to see what you think.
No, I know. I think this is exactly one of these challenges because at the end, it goes always a bit back to this. You have to embed your values first, and then in a way, not just as a designer, also as a consumer. And this is why people need to be actually educated. And then there are brands like Shein, where a T-shirt costs £1, and it's just easy, and they're actually fashionable, and they are totally trendy, and you're like, of course. And then you buy 10 because why? And you don't even wash them because why should I? No. It's difficult. So what do I say? I think, but this is very difficult. For me, I don't really care about trends. And theoretically, we all shouldn't care about it.
Did you say that at your interview?
I did not. But I'm just saying, theoretically, it's a bit, and I have to say, oh my God, they don't listen. I think it's also crazy working for like a fast fashion brand where it's all about trends and how people follow them. And I'm like always thinking, come on, you can't be, just because dots are in, now you need to have a dotted T-shirt, come on. But this is how it is. And it's even with social media and everything, it's just like you need to have it now, and it doesn't cost. What I'm trying to say is, I try to do the following. I pick things I like. And obviously when you can buy them, they sort of obviously are often, they're not always trendy, but something must be there that they are now, that you can buy them now, in a way. I'm choosing what I like, and I try to choose quality. And in an ideal world, I would like that you don't get really good quality at these fast fashion brands. It's impossible. And I only can say if you can somehow afford, I'm not saying you need to be able to buy a Vivienne Westwood dress, but there are like things in between. If you can, I would, especially for example, a coat. Buy a beautiful coat, good quality, and you have it for a few years. Also, second-hand is for me a huge thing, and I think it's anyways really trending now, but this is another thing. And I think, again, you can't be perfect, nobody is. If there is one or two pieces you buy at fast fashion, whatever, I think that is okay, but it's a bit the balance, I think. But it's really difficult. I really have to say it's a difficult thing.
Yeah, and I think it kind of probably goes to the core of some of that predicament we're dealing with at the moment, where on one hand, sustainability is something that is becoming mainstream. It is becoming mainstream to think about, plastic waste and microplastics in the water and global warming. But when you look at the statistics, and sustainable fashion brands are, it's seen as a real pro, as I bought this and it's got an added story to it because I can talk about it as ethical or sustainable. But when you look at statistics, on the other hand, we're also buying more plastic than ever before in human history and more garments at a faster pace. So it's this contradiction
I know
that we're faced with. Whereas on one hand, we have this awareness of, because in a way, it's going back to Vivienne Westwood's quote, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of
buy
less, choose well.
Make it last, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess in a way, this is the thing what starts really with us. And I know then you're confronted with, but this is cool, what you should, you should wear this and you should wear this. But I think that you consume less, it's really within you. Like and of course I would love that advertisement wouldn't even, there wouldn't be that much advertisement about you need this, you need this, you need this, etc. But very much likely this will not happen. So I think it really starts within you, no matter what. If it says no garments are in that way sustainable, we all know that. The best is you don't buy any garments anymore. Literally, this is the best. But yeah.
Yeah, there are enough clothes on the planet now to
dress.
Yes,
I think so.
The next, I've heard 5, 6, up to 7 generations. So,
no, it's crazy. I know.
Thank you. But then, how can you make fast fashion sustainable? Really, I know you can get more organic fabrics at this point for maybe a bit cheaper because that's what most farmers are trying to implement.
Yeah.
But is there anything else that you can do within fast fashion now that you also work in it? What else can you do also, because it's based on marketing it in a way that people just buy and buy and buy. They don't really buy any less.
So another approach is that we are at the moment I'm trying to work with suppliers actually based within Europe, so you don't have this whole China, all the flying, all the carbon, forgot the word, sorry. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Transport, logistics, and
exactly.
emissions.
No, exactly. Yeah. For me, it's also really the quality. I don't want to be against Chinese products, really not, but it is true, the production, the quality from Turkey, Italy, etc. is usually higher. That means it also lasts longer. So this is another thing I'm trying to do. Of course, more costs, but no. What I believe in, but this is, when I say far away, it means a huge logistic, I don't know, different development is, I would love to, in a way, recycle their garments, like almost, like that there is a line and it's all about, like clothes they don't need anymore for that brand, and somehow people can send it to that company, and then with the team, I would love that. We make whatever, unique stuff out of it. A bit like Barber does, but obviously it's fast fashion, so I don't know how many garments we would get, and even if this is possible. And these are little approaches. I totally agree with you, and I don't think my future will be in fast fashion. I just wanted to, in a way, experience it and see actually what can be done and what challenges are there, and let's see. Yes?
Firstly, thank you for a lovely talk. It was really interesting. I really love your dress.
Thank you.
I really love the writing on it, and I love its creativity. I just wondered what brand or where it's from, but also...
This one, this is Vivienne Westwood.
I thought it would be, yeah. I really like it.
And it says true punk.
Yeah, I was trying to work out what the second word was. That's kind of what I thought I'd ask. But I also thought, talking the other questions, where do you like to shop? Are there shops you'd recommend? Like, yeah, I'd love to hear more about your personal style.
Yeah, I really do. I have, because of, I have worked there a lot, I have a lot of Vivienne Westwood clothes. I do actually buy secondhand. I really shop very little. I really have to say that. I really do. I don't throw clothes away though. I have still at my parents a huge wardrobe also. No, from my teen. Actually, I threw, yeah, but anyway, I don't throw away clothes. I can't, and I actually really reuse them sometimes. And I hardly shop. It's really true. I really, but if I shop, it can be pricey. And then because I live in London since several years, I get invited to several, you know, sample sales. So you get like a McQueen top for, instead of 800, for £50. And that happens once, twice a year. I really hardly shop, I have to say that. Because I really don't believe in, even though I work in, I don't believe in trends and all of that. I believe in nice garments. And I believe, for example, this dress is also several years old and I just love it. And you know, it's almost, it's not that I have a story with this dress, but I do. It's like it's not just clothes. I can't really explain. But yeah, yeah. I don't like quantity. I just have little. I mean, I have now a lot of clothes, but as I said, I keep them.
Quality relationships with your clothes. Yeah.
Yes, I do.
One of the things I've been thinking about increasingly is that and one of the problems I think, but this is, I haven't got the research yet to back this up, but is that in global fashion, particularly fast fashion, but actually increasingly also in high-end fashion, because the pace is so rapid, design, so the care and the time put into design and creating simply beautiful garments that fit well, that are new and exciting, and is actually vanishing. And that's partly why we keep buying more and more, because we're not just satisfied with what we're getting. And so we're thinking, oh, I still don't have anything I want to wear to this event, because, you know, the thing I bought the other week, you know, now it's already looking a bit tatty, or it just, you know, it wasn't quite what I'd hoped for, it didn't fit so well. And so we're just buying more and more as a sort of, we're just not quite satisfied. And my observations of the last couple of decades really has been that in fashion businesses, the design team their power is not what maybe it once was, and maybe I'm idolizing it. And the time that you get for each collection, you know, fast fashion is incredible pace. You just haven't got the time to put the creativity into making each garment really exciting, so that someone is going to want to have it in their wardrobe for, you know, decades.
Yeah, I agree. No, I agree. I think actually, before I get into what I just will not realize, I said that before to friends, colleagues, but because I don't really throw away clothes, there are some, but you know, I keep them. And I'm really talking about clothes since I'm 20, and I'm a bit older now anyway. But in all these many years, I also shoes, I keep them. And actually, the trends, whatever, they come back. I really mean it. 90s, 80s, well, they are actually original 90s, perfect. Cowboy boots, I had them from 15 years ago. Like, what I'm trying to say is if you start keeping the good ones, it comes back. There is nothing really new. This is one thing. And what you just said, I totally agree. And this is what I have to say I don't like about fast fashion. For me, this is a bit more an experience. I'm not trying to excuse my new job. It's really a challenge, and I learn incredible lot, but it's a totally different approach in a way. Totally different approach also for how you design. It's about copying trends. Designers, like you say, whatever is the trend, and then you look at runway shows and you copy. Copy, or not one-to-one, but no. Whereas I come from high fashion where you get inspired by, and it's not romanticized, it's really the truth, by a picture, you go to exhibitions, flowers are taken from whatever painting. But you see that in a garment. You wouldn't get this at fast, you don't get that. You don't, and this is a bit, I know there's fast fashion and then there are high fashion brands, and the price difference is huge. But there are also some in between, as you know, and I would only recommend to buy more quality and just one and not too many. It's just you don't need it. But I know when you're young, you like, anyway, I know it's not easy. It's really not easy, but.
But I think it's also something that probably just we need to remind people, consumers, that, you know, to think about quality over quantity, because even if I feel like I'm banging on about that until I'm just this kind of boring record, but then I realize that the counter voices, you know, the social media consumption, it's all about, you know, feeding us this like new. And that all the sort of must-have things that are, you know, actually the same as they were now trends speed up so fast they don't even change every, you know, I'm sure this was a trend 3 years ago, I keep thinking. And so it's really about, influence as well. And that's kind of part of why we also put on this event, which is actually funded by Wales's Civic Engagement Fund. So it's about trying to spread those ideas to counterbalance their fast fashion trends. Maggie, probably the last question now.
Like, I've seen like a lot of stuff on like TikTok, like there's stuff going on with like America and like China and like tariff stuff going on. And like China's come out like saying stuff about how like certain brands and like expensive brands like Gucci and Prada or Dior have been made in China now, and like their quality's gone down. Like, is that true? Like, because I've heard that like you can buy like a vintage like Chanel bag, for example, and it's like made like 10 times better than if you were to go into a store now and buy it.
I don't know. What I know is that in general, almost all the also high fashion brands I know, most of them, including Vivienne Westwood, they're produced in China for money reasons.
But then isn't there like a stamp that says like made in?
There are like a lot of...
made in Italy, still like a stamp, but the problem is with that...
But it's like manufactured.
Exactly.
That's like crazy.
I
like,
know.
I just
I
think
don't.
that's...
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. But I mean, when you are a student or when you enter the business world, you will see it's all about money. I mean, sorry, it's not all, but it's a lot. But it's most of it's really about money, and it's about how can the big ones make even more money. And if you, this is the thing. And China is not unbeatable, but Asia is, the production costs are so low. Yes, they have high minimums. I don't know, you need to produce 1,000 bags, not just whatever, 50. Yeah. But then you get it for like really, really, yeah, we are very cheap. And then they can sell it for the same price. The margins, they earn much more, and here we go.
I'm gonna tell my dad that when I get home now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But again,
yeah.
do you know what I mean? This is again why I'm also saying there should be more rules, more regulations, because as soon as there is a regulation, however that it's called, this wouldn't happen anymore, and then no, there's a shift. But yeah, it's all.
We can continue some of these debates in our panel debate, where we also got some members, some people here, some of them are already in the audience, who work but in very different parts, elements of the industry, and bringing their perspectives on the ethics of fashion. So I hope you will all stay around for that. That will be in, I think, well, probably about hopefully 10 minutes now. We just need to get the chairs on the stage. So you've got a 10-minute comfort break, and then I would love you all to come back and hear a bit more from Ella, but also some other designers and some other activists or people working to make fashion more ethical. Yeah, thank you so much again, Ella.
Thank you. Thank you.